Okay, boys and girls, something I noticed about my videos, they don't start recording right away, so they sometimes cut off the first thing I say. Has anyone noticed that before?
Yeah, no.
So I'm going to try and be a little more patient before I start talking. So this problem says Lewis buys 4 chocolates. Each chocolate costs $2.35. Lewis multiplies 4 times 235 and gets 940. Place the decimal to show the cost of the chocolates and explain your reasoning using words, numbers, and pictures. So that's why I went ahead and drew an area model for you, because it says you have to use a picture. Now another picture you could use would be the place value chart. You could put the discs on there and then do some multiplying that way. But I think this is easier, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what number goes on the side?
4.
And the first box has
2
ones. Then what?
3 tens. 5 ones.
We're on the very first box, okay? Okay, so 2 times 4,
8.
4 times 3,
12.
and 4 times 5. I have kids still making this mistake. They'll do very well on the ones, great on the tens, because they know that's where they're going to make a mistake, and then the hundreds, they just space it off. So what did I forget to do in the hundreds place? Just tell me. I didn't even have a decimal, boys and girls. Now I could cross that one off, couldn't I? Because it's considered a trailing zero. But there's a time when it's not considered a trailing zero. And that is when I'm using money. How many decimal place values do I need for money? 2. So that's why I chose not to cross it off. Okay? So 8 ones plus 1 1.
9.
And 2 tenths plus 2 tenths.
4.
And 0 plus nothing. So where should Lewis place the decimal?
In between the 9 and the 4.
Okay, so how can I write that in a sentence explaining why we decided between the 9 and the 4? Any ideas?
Nope.
Morgan, what do you think?
Lewis is right in multiplying because I got $9.40. Lewis got 940. Just add the decimal in the right place, and then it's just between the 9 and the 4.
Okay. So Lewis is correct when multiplying, but needs to add the decimal between the 9 and 4. Now, why do we know that's correct? Whoops. How do we know that's correct, Tobias? Because I really need to say, I know this because, but I'm not going to write anything else, but how do I know between the 9 and 4 is correct? What do you think? We calculated it, didn't we? Yeah. What's a way you could check to see if you're correct? Go ahead, Tobias. You could, but there's an easier way.
The decimal tops?
Thomas?
Writing
The very last digit's name at the end.
You could. So you could use standard, or you could use unit form is what Thomas is saying. Use unit form. So it'd be 940 hundredths. Or you could estimate. What's 235 to the nearest whole number?
2.
$2 times 4. What's the answer?
8.
$8. Is our answer of $9.40 reasonable?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Okay, let's take a look at,
Forgot the wavy lines.
I did, sorry about that. Okay, so for a minute, I want you to stick with me. I don't want you to work ahead because we're going to review a little bit of third grade math right now, okay? And if I had taught you in third grade math, we would all have the same math language, wouldn't we? But we don't have the same math language, so I want to make sure we understand each other correctly before we go any further, okay? So if I take a problem like 9/10 divided by 3, I'm going to place 9 place value discs on the place value chart, right? Which place value? The tenths. Now, what strategy should I use for placing my 9 dots?
Decimal.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and look at my divisor. What's my divisor?
3.
3. So that's my number of groups. So I want to strategically place my 9 dots so that I can easily make 3 groups. So I want you to think about it for a minute. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint. Think back to the arrays. Please stop tapping. So Thomas thinks he has an idea. Does anybody else have an idea? Okay, that's because he was raising his hand, so I'm not going to let him answer. The rest of you think of an idea. Think about arrays. Think about 9 dots. Think about groups of 3. We're going to strategically put 9 dots on the place value chart, and I'm not going to do 5 and 4. So what makes more sense, Christian? You know what an array is. What do you think, Miley?
I think it's going to be 3 rows of 9.
You're very close. 3 rows of 3. So you're right with the 3 rows. Those 3 rows tell me what my divisor is. And what did I say the divisor was?
3.
So go ahead and put that in the tenths place.
With your highlighter?
Yes, I mean that's easiest. And then with your pencil, let's divide it into 3 groups.
3.
So how many are in each group?
3.
3 what?
3 tenths.
3 tenths. Okay, I'm ready to go on to the next problem. So if you could quickly, thank you. If you could quickly get caught up with me, that would be helpful. All right, so the next one, I really don't think putting a 2 in the tenths and 4 in the hundredths is going to accomplish what I want it to. So where would we put this instead of in the tenths and hundredths? Emily, what do you think? 24 hundredths, where should I put it? No, I said I don't want to put 2 in the tenths and 4 in the hundredths. So where do you think I should put it? Please stop opening and closing the lids. Yosin, what do you think?
Put the 2 in the 1.
No, because it's 24 hundredths. That 2 goes in the tenths. Lapita.
Put the 2 in the 10 and the 4.
No, that's what we just said. We're not doing that. We're not doing that because it's not going to be very easy to divide. Daniel, what do you think?
Put the 24 in the 10s.
You're very close. How about 24 in the hundreds? Okay. Now, we're going to strategically place those dots though, aren't we? So how many rows should we make?
4.
4. Why?
Because it says 4.
That's the divisor. That's going to be our groups, isn't it? We're dividing by 4. So we will place 4 rows. How many are going to be in each row? 6. And I'm dividing by my divisor. What's my divisor again?
4.
4. Okay. So I will make 4 groups. How many are in each group?
6.
6 what? 600s. Doing okay?
Yeah.
This is a quick review, but you're learning my language and my method, okay? All right, what about the next one, 32 thousandths? Go ahead, Lupita. Okay, we're going to just put 32 in the thousandths place. But I'm going to strategically place those dots. Anna, how many rows?
4.
No? 8 rows of 4. Very good, 8 rows of 4.
It would have been fast to do 8 rows of.
4 rows of 8, but
Yeah.
that's not what we're doing. So if I divide by 8, how many groups will I have?
8.
8 groups. And how many are in each group?
4.
So 4 what?
Thousands.
4 thousandths. Okay, good. Okay, now here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you a little secret, okay? And in block 3, somebody said, you're picky. I think it was Rustin, and I said, no, that's not a secret. Everyone knows I'm picky, okay? So put your pencils and highlighters down. I'm going to tell you a little secret. Are you ready for this? I never divide. Just think about it for a minute. I never divide. I have memorized division facts, but I never divide in my head. Here's what I do in my head. Let's take this fact right here. I would do 8 times something equals 32 to figure out the answer to this division problem.
Yeah, that's what I always do.
That's what everyone does. We just don't realize it, okay? So what goes in the box? 4, okay? Now, you get really good at this filling in the missing factor, because that's all division is. Sit still for a minute, okay? Another thing you get really good at is this. What am I doing here?
Fact family.
A fact family. What you're actually memorizing, boys and girls, when you memorize division facts, is these 3 numbers go together. 8, 4, and 32 go together, okay? And you've done most of this learning prior to 5th grade. But there are times when I will still say 8 times something equals 32 to figure out a division problem. Okay, does that make sense? I just want to clarify that because we've got that coming up in the problem set. So let's take a look at new and improved 5th grade division. All right? Now, you don't need your highlighter anymore. I would suggest getting rid of that thing. So basically, what I want you to write on the very back of your packet is spread these 3 problems out. Don't put the bottom one at the very bottom because you're going to write underneath it, okay? But spread them out because you're going to have things to fill in underneath each problem. Go ahead and write those on the very back, okay? And I'm going to teach you the new and improved 5th grade way of dividing. And I'm still not doing the standard algorithm though, because that's my last resort. I want to do this in my head if I can. Okay? So the strategy is going to include a set of 3 equal signs. The first equal sign is written for you, correct? Okay. So in each of these, we're changing it to unit form, dividing, then changing back to standard form. So how would I change 1 5/10 to unit form? 15/10, okay? So 15/10 divided by 5. Okay, So go ahead and do 15 divided by 5, which is really 5 times something equals 15, right? Answer is,
3.
so it's 3/10.
That was so good.
And then I just write it in standard form. How do you like the 5th grade method? Pretty simple, yeah. Now this is, we'll kick it up another notch, which you really want to do, don't you? Because you want it to be harder. So take a look at this. Nellie, Eva, could you close the door for me, please? Have I done that even once this year?
Yeah.
One
Just
other
now.
time? Just now.
No,
Okay.
You didn't.
So I don't want to write, okay, let me teach. I don't want to write 100 500ths because I don't have that memorized divided by 5, okay? And I want to be able to do this in my head. So I'm going to decompose 100 500ths. Now, when I decompose something, I'm just shifting the 1 over to be with the 0, or shifting the 0 over to be with the 5. And I want to know what makes sense to you, how to shift these numbers around so that 5 will divide evenly into 2 numbers. 5 will not divide, I can't do 5 divided by 1 yet. You'll be able to by the end of the year. 1 divided by 5. Okay, let's try this. What if I do a 10 and a 5? Do you see the 10 right there?
Yeah.
All I did was shift the 1 over to the 10th place, right?
Oh,
So that gives me 10 tenths. So go ahead and write 10 tenths. Now here's the thing. I've got to divide 10 tenths by 5. So put that in parentheses. And then when we decompose, don't we add those two together?
Yeah.
Okay, so then I have to add, but this isn't just the regular 5. It's 5 what? Hundredths. So I'll do 5 hundredths divided by 5 and also put that in parentheses. And we're going to do quite a bit of this today, so you'll get the hang of it. I love it. It's fun. Okay, so now, oh, I forgot my equal signs. You probably already had yours on there, didn't you? Okay, so what's 10 divided by 5?
2.
So it's not just 2 ones. What is it? 2 tenths plus, what's 5 divided by 5? 1. So 1 what? 100. Now let's take a look at this in relationship to the place value chart, okay? If I add 2 tenths plus 5 hundredths, oh, I'm sorry, 100th, right? Isn't that what I have here? What do I get for an answer?
1, 2,
What do I get for an answer?
2100.
21 hundredths, that's my answer. Well, actually, I had to make sure I had them in the right place value. So the answer to 100 500ths divided by 5 is 21 hundredths. Okay? We just broke it apart to make it easier. You need to sit still, Jose. Okay, so let's take a look at this next problem. And 5 is still my divisor. How could I break this number apart so that 5 will divide evenly into both parts? Jesse?
Wait, never mind. I had it in my head.
Okay. Morgan?
Move the 0 over to the 3.
So we have a 30 and a 15. Okay, but I need to go ahead and put a box around that so I can figure out what it is. 30 what? It's not 31s, 30 tenths. So you are right, 30 and 15. 30 tenths, whoops, divided by 5.
Yes.
Okay, don't do any division yet.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Plus 15 what?
Hundreds.
Thousands.
Well, what is it? Hundreds or thousands?
Thousands.
It's thousands because the 5, the last digit I write, is in the thousands place. So 15 thousandths
Divided by.
divided by 5. Now don't shout any answers, okay? 5 times something equals 30. What is it?
6.
6 what?
10.
Tenths. Plus 5 times something equals 15. 3 thousandths. Now, I want to look at the place value chart. So I've got 6 tenths plus 3 thousandths, and I'm going to draw it right up here real quick. Okay, so 6 tenths plus 3 thousandths. So what's my answer, Yosin?
Your answer is 6 tenths and 3 thousandths.
And how do I say that number?
600.
I don't want to hear you tapping anymore. 603 thousandths. Okay. So is the place value chart at times going to come in handy so you don't make a mistake?
Yes.
Because chances are some children would have left out the hundredths place, right? Okay. Now go back to your packet and let's skip over to the first page of the
Problem set.
problem set. And in my opinion, this is incorrect. It should be 16 tenths here. Because if we're going to work in unit form, the whole thing needs to be in unit form.
And plus, there's 2 decimals in that.
Well, that's a period. It does look funny though, doesn't it? This should be 32 hundredths. So let's get those changed right now. This should be 84 thousandths. This should be 20 what? 20 tenths. Okay, and this little activity for number 1 is basically just using that little multiplication trick to divide, which is what we all do in our heads. So 4 groups of something equals 16 tenths. 4 groups of blank tenths equals 15 tenths. What is it, kids?
4.
4. 4 times 4 equals 16. Okay? And then write 4 tenths in standard form.
Is this one we have to do in our exit ticket?
I haven't even looked at the exit ticket because we're not going to get to it till Monday.
What?
Okay, let's take a look at the next one. 8 groups of blank hundredths equals 32 hundredths.
4.
8 times 4 equals 32. But this time it's not tenths. What is it? Hundredths. Now this is 7 groups of blank thousandths. Don't shout it out. I want everybody to try and figure it out. Equals 84 thousandths. Don't even raise your hand. You're going to make people nervous. Just keep it to yourself for a minute. I know it's not 7 times 10 because that would be 70. So do a little more thinking here. Do a little more thinking. Mario, what do you think?
12.
You're right. 7 times 12 equals 84. So how do I write 12 thousandths? Good. And I'm going to pause it right there.
One more.
Okay, one more.
Yes.
5 groups of blank tenths is 20 tenths. Anna?
4.
4 tenths.
Just bring your turn to 12.
Oh my, I just wrote 4 hundredths.
Work.
Okay, let's look at these down here. They're really fun. I think we have a couple minutes left.
We do have 2 more minutes.
Okay, well, we might go over. Okay, so the first one, I notice I don't have the 3 equal signs. But I will on these next ones, okay? So the first one, I'm just going to change 4 and 2 tenths in the unit form. So how many tenths is this? 42 tenths divided by 7. So 7 times something equals 42. What is it?
6.
6. So 6/10 is my answer. Okay? Now the next one is more like we did when we wrote them out with the 3 equal signs, but it looks like they gave us a little bit of information. So they're saying on 2 and 6400ths, divide it into ones and hundredths. You know how I know that? It says it right here. So if I divide this, or decompose it, into ones and hundredths, what do I have?
2 and 64.
Okay, so 2 ones divided by 2, I like the parentheses, it helps me, plus 64 hundredths divided by 2. So what's 2 divided by 2?
1.
And that should be 1, 1, right? And 64 divided by 2. Christian,
31.
you're close.
32.
32.
Oh my
32.
God. I was thinking 64.
Okay, so now we have 1, 1, and 32 hundredths. That's pretty easy addition, isn't it?
Yeah.
I like to be able to pull out the ones place if I can, because it's just easier. You can't always do it though. So let's take a look at the next one. It's still saying pull out the ones. So how many ones do I have?
12.
So we'll divide this into 2 groups, 12 ones and 64 hundredths. So 12 ones divided by 2 and 64 hundredths divided by 2.
6.
Okay, so 12 divided by 2,
6.
6 ones. 64 divided by 2.
2.
So we have 6 ones
And 30.
and 32 hundredths. I want to do one more before I stop recording. So go ahead and turn the page. Yours is on the top of the next page. You'll be okay. Because this one, we're not just taking out the ones. What are we taking out?
The 10.
The tenths. So I've got 42 and 6. Why did we choose to do 42 and 6 instead of 4 and 26? Daniel?
Because it's in the tenths.
Yeah, but why do we choose the tenths?
Because the decimal is behind the 4.
No? It has to do with my divisor. Will 6 divide evenly into 4 ones?
No.
No. So I had to combine it with the tenths.
Oh, yeah.
So 42 tenths is divisible by 6. And how many hundredths are left over?
6.
And is 6 divisible by 6?
Yes.
It is. We're going to finish this one before we leave. So 42 divided by 6, 6 times something equals 42.
7.
7 tenths plus 6 divided by 6.
1.
100. So when I write my answer of 7 tenths plus 100, what do I get for an answer?
7100.
Very good. Okay, now, thank you for being